Hey there, and welcome back. If you have joined us before for previous videos, if you have not, then, well, just welcome in general. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Liquify tool in Photoshop. Now, what does this do? The Liquify tool is used to distort parts of your image, and you can push or pull or pucker or bloat specific pixels without losing the quality of your image. Um, it can also be used, well, it's still distorting, but it can be used to take off those extra 10 pounds that the camera adds, or so they say it does. I don't know. But if you're using a wide angle lens, let's say like a 14 millimeter lens, and you take a portrait such as you're seeing on the screen, but you're so close, but you're really close to your subject, you're going to get a little distortion in your subject's face, like his or her nose might be broader or wider, or even like the jawline might look a little wider than it actually is. So using the Liquify tool is one way to fix all of that. All right, so let's get started. Um, First, and I've already done this, you'll want to make a copy of your background layer. So put your original image into a totally separate new layer. You can hit Control J on your keyboard, or you can go up to your menu bar and do layer, duplicate layer. And the reason why we're doing this is because the Liquify technique is a destructive edit. So you are changing the pixels of your image, so that by having a copy of your original image, if you totally screw up and hit save or change your mind on how things want to be done, you have the original still there that you can get rid of all of your edits and start completely over. Okay, and now once you've made a copy of your background layer, you're going to go up to your menu bar and select Filter, and then you will see that there's a last filter option, and that is grayed out. That's because we haven't applied a filter yet, but once you have done a filter, whatever filter you use will be in that grayed out area, which can be handy if you're going to be using a lot of filters and over and over and over. Okay, and then from here we're going to choose the Liquify option, and if you're going to be using filters often, there's a shortcut listed on that menu bar, and then we'll get a pop-up. Oh, I have two monitors going, sorry. Here's the pop-up menu. All right. And as you can see, there are two white lines on the image there. Don't worry about those if that is just identifying that is the face in the photo. You may be able to see that there is a listing for face number 1 with a drop down. So if you had 3 people in your photo, you would have face number 1, face number 2, and face number 3. And then you would be able to choose which face that you want to alter specific things on. And below that drop down menu, there are options to do your eyes, nose, mouth, and the face shape. So if you click on those arrows, it'll give you all of the options that you can do for each of those components. So here we have the eye distance. You can see that the eyes are spreading far apart or going closer in. I'm going to adjust each one of these so you can see what's going on and then put it back into its original position. So you have the eye tilt, and all of these I'm doing the left eye only. And then the next one up is the eye width. I don't know why I chose to go from bottom to top instead of top to bottom. That was kind of weird on my part, but so you can see the width of the eye is being adjusted, and then you have the eye height. So how tall, I guess you would, if the eye would be. And again, pay attention to the left eye. And then you just have general eye size. Whoops. Okay, there we go. Slider got away from me a little bit. And then click on the arrow again to make that disappear. And let's go down to the nose. Nose height. You can see it lowers, goes higher, like she's like, ew. And then the nose width, wider or smaller. Oops. The slider or the mouse keeps getting away from me. Sorry about that. And then for the mouth, you have how you can alter the smile. You can kind of put a fake smile in. That looks kind of weird though. The upper lip, how thick or thin the upper lip is, and then same for the lower lip. And we'll have a video also how to kind of make the lips pop a little bit more. And then the mouth width, wider mouth, smaller mouth. And then the mouth height, like oh, a lot of teeth. And then you just have your face shape. So the forehead, my daughter likes to say she has a 5 head because, you know, there's more than 4 fingers. The chin height, the jawline, increase or decrease the jawline. Ooh, that's a little dramatic. And then the face width in general. Now, obviously, there's a lot more options in this menu that we can use to enhance or not necessarily enhance, but change things, and they're a little bit more advanced. But those are the ones that we are going to use in this video. Feel free to explore this menu or everything that's in it because you never know, you might discover some awesome, cool thing that works for you. All right, so let's take a moment to explore some of the tools that are on the left-hand side of this panel or pop-up box. Um, they might not be something that you will use on portraits for some, but they do have some really cool effects that you just saw with the eye. Now, if we did like tie-dye something or other, that would look really cool, but obviously that does not work for a portrait. And the tool right below that, the second one, is the reconstruct tool. So, oops, I did too much on that. I didn't want to do that to that eye. I just fixed it. Or you could just do a Control Z. And then this is the smoothing tool. So if we had already applied a Liquify effect and there are some harsh edges, the smoothing tool would actually smooth the edges of that out. So I hadn't applied any liquefaction changes to the image there. So by me going over the face with the smooth tool, that kind of was a waste of time, even though it was 2 seconds, because there was nothing for that tool to smooth. I hope that makes sense. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the twirl tool. And you will see 2 circles here, and the inside circle right now is my brush, and the outside circle is the clicks of my mouse. And I'm going over the eyes, and nothing is really happening. And you'll see why in just a second. I'm going to change my brush size because my brush size was so small that you couldn't see anything happening. So now that I've increased my brush size, there we go. Now it's twirling. And this, obviously, you wouldn't use on a portrait, but it would be a really cool effect if you had just a bunch of colors and we're doing a tie-dye effect. So now I increased my brush size for also the pucker tool. This is the tool that I think Snapchat would be or is using to get one of their filters to work, that just kind of brings the face in, and well, you can see what it's doing. It's puckering. And now we'll go ahead and do the bloat tool. Increase my brush size so you can see what's happening, and that's just expanding. So we just made her nose a little bit bigger. And then we have the push left tool, which it's called push left, but I mean it can push right also, or down, or probably up. And I'm just doing Control Z to undo what I just did instead of using the reconstruct tool. And now we're going to take a look at the freeze, the freeze tool. So I just did a little bit of a mask over the eyes, and now I'm going to do the pucker tool, and as you can see, The face is puckering, but the eyes are not moving because I have frozen them. So now I'm going to take the Thaw tool and I'm going to remove that mask. And I'm going to go to the pucker tool again, and now it's pulling in the eyes. Okay, so now I'm going to do the reconstruct tool to undo everything that I just did. I could do Control Z and hit that 2 or 3 times until I get to where I want. But the reconstruct tool is very handy because let's say I wanted one side of her face to stay puckered, but wanted to do the other side back to normal. I could do the reconstruct tool on the side that I wanted to go back to normal, and then the other side would stay puckered, and I could make almost like a Two-Face, just kind of like in Batman, if you're familiar with Batman. Okay, so the next tool on this side of the dialog box is the Face Aware tool. And as you can see, the white marks came back. And as I move my mouse around, you'll see the outlines of Ashley's face are coming to light. And then also the nose, and you'll see the outlines of the eyes. And you will also notice that as I'm adjusting on those outlines, the sliders on the right-hand side of the dialog box are changing. So there's 2 ways that you could do this, and no way is right or wrong. It's just your preference. Me personally, I would prefer to use the sliders versus using my mouse and having to, you know, work with those outlines, which seem to me would be a little clunky, and it would take longer to make the edit versus if you were using the slider. But it is personal preference. And also keep in mind, you do not want to make huge changes unless that's what the client asks for. Okay, so because we've had the preview box checked, we can see the changes as we make them. So uncheck and recheck this box to see, you know, the before and after. And if you're happy with it, great. If you're not happy with it, you can either use the reconstruct tool and just paint over all of the changes that you made, or just to be safe, so you don't miss something and you're making a change on top of a change and things get muddled later on down the road and you're wondering why this is not working the way you thought it would work or the way it should work, you can also hit the reset button that's in this dialog box. But this Liquify tool or function filter is not only for the face, it's also for making adjustments in the rest of the photo. So I'm going to take the push left tool, and on the screen you're going to see 2 circles. One is for the mouse click, that's the thicker circle, and the other is the actual brush that I'm using. So that bigger thin circle. And as you can see, the changes that I'm making are pretty dramatic. It matters where you put the brush. So you want, and the size of your brush as well. So you don't want a huge brush, but you also want to put the center of the brush where you want the adjustment to be made. So I'm making an adjustment to the edge of her shirt where her hair is overlaying, and I'm just ever so slightly moving it in. You don't want to do too much because this is kind of like the face. Most people don't take kindly to changing their shape too much. You know, making it dramatic. I mean, there's altering it a little bit to make it look better, but then there's actually changing it. We don't want to do that. So I'm just going to play around here for a little bit. And like I said, the center of that circle is where the pull is going to be made from. I hope that makes sense. And there are going to be spots where you want a bigger brush, like this part on her arm. If I make a bigger brush, then a larger area is moving versus moving several small areas. So this change is going to be a little bit more natural, whereas the first set of changes that I was trying to make doesn't. So here's the before and after. That doesn't look too bad. And I'm just gonna, you know, play around here a little bit and adjust her shoulder line a little bit. And as you can see, I'm kind of elongating her neck here. That's not good. Those are the types of changes that you want to watch out for. Don't do them. Before and after. It almost looks like she dropped her shoulder, like. So cool. She actually is cool. She's a really awesome person. And that change, that looks very unnatural. So again, be very careful with this type of tool. This is one of those tools that it's like with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, and then once you're done with your edits and everything looks as you like them to or as your client requested, you can go ahead and hit the OK button in that dialog box to bring you back to your image so you can continue on with your other edits. In our next video, we're going to do some contouring and shaping with her face by digitally applying some makeup, just like the kids do these days to, totally reshape and re-image their face. So thanks for watching, thanks for hanging with me, and stay tuned for the next video.